Kyekyo kyennyini NTV ku ssaawa emu egguse osibye otya nno munnaffe bino bye bimu ku bikulu ebiri mu mawulire ag'essaawa eno.
Mu buli kifo baali baziikawo abantu nga between 5 n'abantu 7 ba 15.
Obulumbaganyi e Bundibugyo, Ssenkulu wa poliisi General Kale Kaihura alagidde okunoonyereza kukolebwe ku bantu abagambibwa okuttibwa ne baziikibwa Kirindi mu ntaana emu.
Mu biseera by'obudde abantu bangi babatulugunyanga kakati abantu bw'obanga obatulugunyizza n'obasindika kisenge baba balina kwerwanako.
Okutulugunya abakwate e Bundibugyo abalwanirira eddembe ly'obuntu bagamba nti ebikolwa ng'ebyo baakoma kubiraba mu mirembe egyayita.
Okuviira ddala awo ebyaliwo nga Ssaabasajja Kabaka alemeseddwa okugenda e Bugerere, etteeka ne likolebwa mutima mubi era ne likolebwamu ensobi.
Etteeka ku bukulembeze bw'ensikirano. Ssemateeka ayogera ki ku kuteekawo obukulembeze obw'ekikula ng'ekyo? Meeya w'e Makindye Ian Clark ayogedde muve mu by'obufuzi muweereze bannakampala. NTV ku ssaawa emunyongedde nnyo okukwaniriza nze Hatimana Lugwa Sekaya. Ssenkulu wa poliisi General Kale Kaihura ataddewo akakiiko akagenda okulondoola abagambibwa okuttibwa ne baziikibwa mu ntaana mu Kirindi mu disitulikiti ey'e Bundibugyo. NTV yakoze okunoonyereza kwayo n'etuuka mu bimu ku bifo ebigambibwa okuttibwamu abantu.
Twatambudde kilomita 12 okuva mu tawuni ya disitulikiti ya Bundibugyo okutuuka mu ggombolola ya Kirumya wansi w'olusozi lw'Enzori awagambibwa okubeera nti we wali entaana ezaziikibwamu abantu mu ngeri ey'ekirindi abaakwatibwa oluvannyuma lw'obulumbaganyi obwakolebwa ku balakisi y'amagye n'ekitebe kya poliisi omwezi guno. Tekimanyiddwa bulungi oba abantu bano battibwa abamu ku batuuze abaatwalira amateeka mu ngalo oba battibwa amasasi okuva mu balakisi y'amagye awagambibwa okuba nti gye bali bakoze obulumbaganyi. Olw'obubi bw'ekkubo tukyusa entambula okukosa boodabooda okututambuza kilomita nga 3 okutuuka ku kyalo Bundi Mulombi era nga wano we wali entaana eteeberezebwa okubeera y'emu ku ezo ezaziikibwamu emirambo gy'abantu abattibwa mu Kirindi. Abamu ku bakulembeze b'ekitundu bakkiriza nti basimawo ekinnya era ne basulayo egimu ku mirambo.
I'm telling you the truth because me I can't say what I didn't see. As a chairman, I saw the dead bodies were lying there. 5 dead bodies. Plus the 2 were 7 people.
Bano bagamba nti ekiragiro eky'okuziika abantu wano baakijjamu bamu ku bakulembeze b'amagye ku balakisi.
He ordered that we don't have where to take this dead body. You can what? You can bury the commander there.
Nga tukyali ku ntaana eno, omu ku bantu be tuli nabo afuna amasimu okumutiisatiisa nga bamubuuza lwaki atulagiridde awali entaana eno eziikiddwamu abantu mu Kirindi. Era twangwa mangu okuddukayo.
And when we are down there yes. At the massive grave, yes. I heard the chairman calling me. So when I tried to receive his message, the phone, the network went off. It's like the chairman has communicated to RDC over how I should be arrested because he has the command that where are you? You board the motorcycle and come to my office. If you delay, then I'm causing your arrest.
Why do they want to arrest you?
I don't know.
Why do you suspect that there could be intentions of arresting you?
I don't know. That's what I want to go and prove. Immediately, then the OC station called me.
Kizuulibwa oluvannyuma nti gwe tubadde naye akwatiddwa poliisi okukunyizibwa okumala akaseera. Babamu ku bakulembeze nga kw'otadde n'abatuuze balumiriza nti waliwo abamu ku bantu abattibwa abatalina musango.
Abamu tubamanyi era kati batandise n'okweralikira nti kati tuli mu kukola ki, tuli mu kubabuulirizaako.
Bongera okukakasa nti eno si entaana yokka omwazikibwa abantu ekirindi era nga batono nnyo abamanyi ku kino.
Mu buli kifo baali baziikawo abantu nga between 5 n'abantu 7 oba 15. Kati waliwo ebifo 3 bye twategeddeko.
Kakati waliwo abavubuka nga babagadinje ne babatwala mu nsiko ne basima ebinya ne batandika kubakasuka mu binya n'okubikirira kw'ettaka.
We twogerera kati nga Ssaabaduumizi wa poliisi Kale Kaihura yawadde dda ekiragiro okulondoola okuttibwa kw'abantu nga kw'otadde n'okubaziika mu ntaana ez'ekika kino. Era waliwo ekitegeerekeseeko nti egimu ku mirambo gino gya kuziikulwa.
Naleka nga regional CID officer afunye order kuva mu kooti Bundibugyo ng'emukkiriza kulaba nti basimye entaana zino balaba abantu abalimu era banoonyeze ku ki ekyabata postmortem.
Kinajjukirwa ati nga 5 omwezi guno abazigu balumba balakisi y'amagye n'ekitebe kya poliisi Bundibugyo ekyaviirako abantu abasoba mu 6 okuttibwa. Suhail Mugabi, NTV ku ssaawa emu.
Webale nnyo munaffe Suhail Mugabi. Ebifaananyi ebiwuniikiriza ebiraga engeri y'abasirikale ba poliisi n'amagye gye baatulugunyaamu abateeberezebwa okwenyigira mu bulumbaganyi Bundibugyo bitanudde abalwanirira eddembe ly'obuntu. Bano bagamba nti enneeyisa ng'eno ey'ebitongole ebikuuma ddembe terina njawulo nnyo ku eyo eyaliwo mu mirembe gy'abafuzi abaasooka era nti singa tewabaawo kikolebwa bunnambiro embeera yandisajjuka.
Oluvannyuma lw'obutambi obulaga abakuumaddembe nga batulugunya abateeberezebwa okuba ne kye bamanyi ku bulumbaganyi obwakolebwa Bundibugyo, abalwanizi b'eddembe ly'obuntu bakwatiddwako. Munnamateeka era nga mulwanizi w'eddembe ly'obuntu Ladislausi Rwakafuzi agamba nti ekyakolebwa abasirikale Bundibugyo kitwala eggwanga emabega mu mirembe gy'abafuzi abaasooka abasirikale bwe batulugunyizanga abantu awatali yadde okubagambako.
Kubanga Obote mu biseera by'Obote abantu bangi babatulugunyanga, kakati abantu bw'obanga obatulugunyizza n'obasindika kisenge baba balina kwerwanako okukakana mu myaka 5 Obote nga bamugjeeko. So n'olwekyo nze mbadde nteesa nti gavumenti yeegendereze nnyo.
Ono agamba nti ssemateeka akirambika bulungi nti kkooti ye yokka erina olukusa okugaba ekibonerezo. Abantu bangi bakwatibwa era ne bakubibwa Bundibugyo ne kye bamanyi ku bulumbaganyi omwafiira abantu.
Naye okutulugunya abantu tekikkirizibwa. Gavumenti yonna yonna weefa yenkana esaanye okukolera buli kintu kyonna mu mateeka. Weekola ekintu kyonna ekitali mu mateeka eba ewadde ebbeetu n'obuyinza abantu nabo okukola ebikolwa ebitali mu mateeka.
Bangi ku bakwate baleetebwa mu kkooti y'amagye wabula nga balina ebisago. Yo poliisi olunaku lw'eggulo yalutegeezezza nti okunoonyereza ku bigambibwa nti abasirikale baayo n'amagye baakuba bakwate ku kyagenda mu maaso.
Bwe kiba nti waliwo ebyaliwo nti oba abapoliisi balina engeri gye baakubamu abasibe ng'ate olwedde bamaze okukwatibwa, ekyo tulina okutunuulira footage eyo oba vidiyo tulabe oba ddala ntuufu oba si ntuufu.
Patrick Mukasa, NTV ku ssaawa emu.
Obusambattuko obuwerako buzze bubalukawo nga bwesigamizibwa ku bukulembeze obw'ensikirano. Ababaka ba Paalamenti abamu bagamba nti ekya gavumenti okugenda ng'etongoza obukulembeze obw'ennono obutali bunnansangwa kye kiviiriddeko enkaayana mu bantu ko n'okulwanagana oba oliawo nga bwe gwali mu bitundu by'e Rwenzori.
Oluvannyuma lwa gavumenti ya Milton Obote okwera obufuzi bw'ensikirano mu Uganda mu mwaka gwa 1966, ebitundu bingi mu ggwanga byamala ebbanga n'ebisiibo nga tebirina bukulembeze bwa nsikirano. Wabula oluvannyuma lwa gavumenti ya NRM okuwamba obuyinza, gavumenti bw'etyo mu myaka gy'ekyenda yasalawo okuzzaawo obukulembeze obw'ensikirano oluvannyuma lw'okwebuuza ku bantu ab'enjawulo mu ggwanga nga kino kyakolebwa okusinziira Kawaayiro 246 akassemateeka wa Uganda. Kyokka ebbanga bwe lizze liyitawo, gavumenti ezze etongoza abakulembeze ab'obuwangwa ab'enjawulo mu bitundu ebitali bimu mu ggwanga. Mu abo mwe muli Beka Kimeze ow'e Kayunga, Mwogeza Butamanya ow'e Buluuli, Wezile Mumberengono kati yakulembera obwa Rwenzululu, Martin Kamyangono yakulembera eggwanga ly'Abamba ko abalala bangi. Wabula eri abatunuulira ensonga zino, ekyokutondawo abakulembeze nga bano bagamba nti kimenya ssemateeka w'eggwanga.
Tekyali kyakuteekawo obufuzi bwannono bupya, kubanga simanyiyo mu nsi yonna gye buli obufuzi obwonnono gye bwali era gye buli.
Ssemateeka ekirambika bulungi egamba nti bazzewo obwakabaka obumanyiddwa abantu obwedda mu constitution.
Kinajjukirwa nti mwaka gwa 2010 mu Buganda mwagwamu akacyankalano kabaka bwe yaganibwa okugenda mu ssaza ly'e Bugerere nga lino liri wansi wa Buganda. Embeera eno tiyakoma mu Buganda wokka. Abantu abasoba mu 9 be battibwa mu kulwanagana okugambibwa okuba wakati w'Abamba n'Abakonzo ng'ente bweva ku kya gavumenti ya wakati okutongoza Omudingiya ng'omukulembeze w'Abamba.
Kati kyetugenda okulaba mbozi, kati kyetugenda okulaba genocide, bino byafuuse ebibonerezo. Bw'oba toyagala bufuzi bwo bwannono busalamu kuteekawo bulala, olina okufukamiranga ku mavivi buli kiseera ne weebaza yabuzaawo era n'okola ebyo byayagala.
Waliwo okutya nti kati ensonga z'obukulembeze obw'ensikirano zireeteddwamu n'ebyobufuzi, ekintu ekijja okussa eggwanga mu katyabaga.
The president has decided to be making himself the policy because he is the one who decides that this one should be a cultural leader, this one should not. This one should be a king in such a place, this one should not.
Nene ssemateeka yina bw'ekirambika obulungi nti obukama obw'ensikirano tebulina kwetabwa mu byabufuzi. Naye ate kati gavumenti mwennyini yeekikozesa.
Ng'embeera ku bukulembeze obw'ensikirano ekyali yakaweerege ng'eddiya ly'obukadde, ye omubaka wa Lubaga South Ken Luchamzi ategeezezza nga bw'agenda okussa gavumenti ku nninga ku nsonga zino.
Prime Minister annyonnyole lwaki President mu kifo ky'okulaba nti obukulembeze obw'ensikirano butebenkera ate yavuddeyo ng'omusaayi obutabangula.
Julius Senkandwa, NTV.
Webale nnyo Julius Senkandwa. Mu mawulire amalala, kati giweze emyaka 3 bukya bannakampala bakuba kalulu k'abakulembeze b'ekibuga. Wabula abamu ku bakulembeze ba Kampala bagamba nti ekimu ku biziŋŋamiza entambuza y'emirimu mu kibuga kwe kukulembeza ebyobufuzi okusinga okusesera ku nsonga y'okukolera abakozi bye babatuma. Olunaku olwaleero twogeddeko ne mmeeya w'eggombolola y'e Makindye Dr. Ian Clark n'atulaga ye bw'asobodde okutambuzaamu emirimu wadde ng'ebyobufuzi bikyayugayuga mu Kampala.
Kulonda kwa 2011 abalonzi ba Kampala balonda abakulembeze be balinamu essuubi nga balaba nti balina obusobozi okubakolera ebyo bye baali babasuubiza, wabula bangi ku bo bye baasuubira si bye bafunye. Mu kibuga Kampala ekikolebwa amagombolola 5, abamu ku bakulembeze baakyo bagamba nti ebyobufuzi bikulembezeddwa nnyo okusinga okuweereza abantu ababalonda.
The KCCA Act had some contradictions and some gaps in it. And one of the gaps and even contradictions was that the divisions were not represented at City Hall.
Ian Kiraka nga ye mmeeya wa ggombolola y'e Makindye agamba nti ekizibu kya Kampala kyava ku byabufuzi ebiteereddwa mu buweereza bw'abantu.
Take the politics out of it. It's about service delivery. We are there, and it doesn't matter whether you're an NRM or a DP or an FDC or an independent. We are there to ensure that we get the best value for money. We get, the programs being delivered as well as possible.
Kiraka agamba nti yadde Kampala alimu ebibiina by'obufuzi, wabula bwe kituuka ku buweereza bw'abantu bwe beetaaga, ebyobufuzi bisaana bisibwe ebbali nga bwawe ekyokulabirako nti ewuwe gy'akulembera e Makindye talina kibiina kya byabufuzi mwagwa naye asobodde okukolera abantu.
So I'm in a privileged position that I can decide, do I want to do this for my country? And have I got the ability to do it?
Kiraka era ategeeza nti kibanyiga kubanga tebalina buyinza kubisalibwawo mu kibuga olw'ensonga nti bo tebalonda ate nga n'ensimbi ze bakozesa nazo tezibamala.
Kampala's priorities are then put into one budget. And many of the mayors said, but that's not really, we don't really have control of that budgeting process. that budgeting process is actually being determined by technocrats and a minister, and our input is only to say, well, we would like a road here.
Ono era awadde ekyokulabirako nti Road Mayor Erias Lukwago amateeka mwe yajjira gamusiba ekikoligo nga kati talina waayinza kuyita kolera bannakampala olw'obukwakulizo obwateekebwa ku ntebe ye.
The Lord Mayor, Erias Lukwago, he's a personable guy. He's been in politics a long time. He has a different view of his position than I have. For me, it's a position of leadership that you can bring the best values and bring development. For him, it was an opposition position. And for him, also, he is a lawyer. And so he went the legal route. And now the legal route has tied him up in knots.
Kyokera agamba nti yandiyagadde okweyongerayo mu bifo ebisingako ku bukulembeze bwa Kampala wabula akyalina okwebuuza ennyo kubanga ebyobufuzi bya Kampala bijjuddemu effitina nnyingi. Dini Lobo Wasava, NTV ku ssawemu.
Meya w'eggombolola y'e Makindye nga atangaaza ku mirimu nga bwe gitambula mu Kampala. Omubaka wa Rubaga South John Kenny Lukyamuzi ategeezezza nga bw'amaze okubaga ekiwandiiko kyagenda okwanjula mu Parliament ku nteekateeka ya gavumenti ey'okugoba abantu abeesenza okumpi n'oluguudo lw'eggaali y'omukka. Lukyamuzi okuvaayo kiddiridde ab'ekitongole kya Kampala Capital City Authority okutegeeza abantu mu bitundu eby'enjawulo nti baabulire oluguudo lw'eggaali y'omukka ng'omwezi guno tegunnaggwako.
Osobola otya okusengula abantu? Gavumenti ya Uganda be yamanya nti oluvannyuma lwa leero okukomokola emyaka kumpi 3 ebitundu babikozesa basobole okufuna ekigulira Magala ddiba. Lino ggwanga lyaffe ffenna abaavu n'abagagga, abanaku n'abatali. Ng'otutwala luddawa? Eggwanga lino terigulwa. It is your country. You must defend it. Naye petitioni yawedde era ejja kwanjula ku Lwakubiri ng'ennaku z'omwezi 22 essaawa ez'olweggulo. Nandyagadde abasobola okuyambako njagala galala ya Palamenti ejjule yonna yonna nga nnyanjula petitioni yammwe nga nammwe mulaba. Ensonga tutandise zivuga mu debate ey'omulembe era eya science. Lyamanyibwa nnyo eggwanga lyaffe okweto lw'ensi zonna.
Jessa Smooth Yogurt comes in various flavors like vanilla, strawberry and banana. Jessa Farm Dairy. Always trusted, always delicious.
Today's highlight with
Nice and Lovely Body Lotion.
Here. This is all she said, but I need to know that woman.
Hello?
Hello, Lillian?
Yes, Daddy?
Lillian, we must leave town.
Daddy, what's going on?
Mama nange yavaamu naafa.
Mambi mukazi wattu. Olabye kale mukama musasuzi. Olaba nze mbulira kyompitidde. Mbulira kyompitidde nze ngende.
You bring out the best in me. New and improved Nice and Lovely Body Lotion. The 24-hour skin moisturizer that's your skin's best friend. The best in me.
And the change of government won't stop a thing. I've run out of fingers counting the number of multinationals setting up here. What about the 3 companies that announced their plans to launch last week? I say there shortly. Me, I'd be looking to sell. At what price? More. Much, much more. I don't know who you are or how you know these things, but one thing I'm sure of, you're in the wrong job. Here, call me tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to hear more from you.
Are you ready for your big break? The East African, understanding the region.
watching Morning at NTV.
Welcome to Morning at NTV, the hottest ticket in town. For what is promised to be an awesome week ahead, let's get started with the question of the day. There you go. Let's get the week started with answering that question. The first 5 respondents will each walk away with a beautiful mug from Morning at NTV. And you saw we gave out some mugs a couple of weeks ago, and some people are enjoying those mugs in their offices. You can be a winner too. Our Facebook page is Morning at NTV, and of course Twitter at Morning at NTV. If you can't use those two, head over to your phone, type Morning at NTV and send it to 6565. The correct answer will walk away with that mark. And of course, priority is given to the first 5 respondents, and good luck to everyone. Alternatively, you can also follow us on our individual handles at MBGold2, that is mine, at Kasiate for Simon Kasiate, Joel Senyonyi for Joel Senyonyi, at Mebkeb, who is not here with us today, and of course at Dakaba Isma Chigongo on Twitter. And of course, let's continue the conversations there. When I return, I'll be coming up with the stories that are shaping headlines this Monday morning.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
A very good morning to you. If you're just joining us, please feel free to continue the discussion online, Facebook, Twitter, and the SMS platform. Now, shaping the headlines this morning, we have how the unrest in the unpredictable Rwenzori will influence the 2016 general elections, and we caught one-on-one with the mayor of Machine Division, who advised colleagues to abandon toxic policies, and how the debate in Parliament can definitely become quality and contribute to Uganda's development. This is Morning at NTV. Now, security forces moved in to quell the recent tribal attacks in the flashpoint districts of Kasese and Bundibujo, which were laced with ethnic overtones. But how will this unrest in the unpredictable Rwenzori influence the 2016 general elections? NTV's Solomon Serwanja has more.
Though Western Uganda has always been a stronghold of the ruling party, Kasese district remains a swing state in the 2016 elections. In the 2006 elections, FDC presidential candidate Dr. Kizza Besigye received 56% of the votes, while NRM's Yoweri Museveni garnered 44%. The rejection of President Museveni was largely anchored on the refusal of government to grant the Bakonzo the Obusinga. A quickly appointed committee headed by Second Deputy Premier Muganwa Kajura agreed to grant the Bakonzo ethnicity a kingdom status. This political alignment paid off, as President Museveni in 2011 won by 53% against FDC's Kizza Besigye, and members of parliament from the NRM shared the 6 constituencies equally with the FDC. As the relations between the central government and the Businga wa Rwenzori continued to thaw, tribal undercurrents which were bubbling below the radar came to surface. Over 90 people, largely of the Bakonzo ethnicity who attacked military installations, were shot dead. So, how will the latest conflict influence the 2016 elections? Seasoned journalist and managing editor of the Daily Monitor newspaper, Charles Bichachi, says the NRM will likely face a protest vote from the Bakonzo in 2016.
The Bakonzo feel humiliated. Their prime minister has been, you have seen pictures of him being paraded in the court-martial, bare feet, bare chest.
However, government spokesperson Ofono Pondo says that the restoration of peace in Kasese will give the ruling party an edge in the election.
NRM is not voted on the basis only of cultural institutions. NRM is supported on the basis of many other programs: education, health, roads, and many others.
Some political observers argue that the recent recognition of the Obudinja Bwabamba in Bundibujo district provided the spark of the latest conflict, and fear that this may prove the daunting task for NRM to win favor amongst the Bakonzo in 2016.
Museveni is likely to benefit is that he will keep a solid Bamba vote because he has recognized the kingdom of the Bamba kingdom. So they are going to support him as their protector. And he will lose the Bakonzo, but he will gain the Bamba.
The media center chief argues that whereas Kasese may pose some challenges to the ruling party, the NRM will win in other parts of Rwenzururu overwhelmingly.
Bundibujo is 100% NRM, Ntoroko is 100% NRM. Opposition candidates, opposition parties are incapable of raising candidates, viable candidates in those areas.
There is no doubt that the Rwenzururu Culture Institution will have an impact on the electorate in the 2016 general elections. This means that the NRM party needs to employ new tactics to placate the sentiments of the Bakonzo as they prepare for a showdown against the FDC, which has more to gain. Solomon Serwanja, NTV.
Well, thank you so much, Solomon. Of course, NTV continues to commiserate with the families that have lost people in the Rwenzori insecurity. Now, moving on. Makindye Division Mayor Dr. Ian Clark has advised colleagues to abandon toxic politics if much vaunted change in Kampala is to be achieved. Speaking to NTV, Dr. Clark says that without the leadership wrangles, Kampala City would by now be a marvel.
In 2011, the people of Makindye Division in Kampala overwhelmingly voted in favor of Dr. Ian Clark, who stood on an independent ticket platform. Dr. Clark is a proprietor of Kampala International Hospital. After 3 years of service delivered to the people of Makindye, his division stands out from the rest in terms of service delivery.
Because I believe that's my job, to make sure these things work better, to make sure we get better value for money, to make sure the potholes are fixed, to make sure if there's issues with the new roads being made.
Unlike other politicians who preach water and drink wine, Clark is pragmatic.
Problems we have with some of our politicians is they don't have the technical competence really to call the technical staff to account. I am highly involved with the technical side. In fact, when we are doing our job, then some party wants to come along and take credit for it. These are not party issues. These are issues of local government.
The roads in Makindye, health centers and schools are in good shape. The Makindye mayor believes the conflict between the Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago and the Executive Director Jennifer Musisi has crippled the service delivery at the City Hall.
I have many frustrations as far as the job's concerned. I think we could have done much better. It's certainly a lot better than what was there before. Take the politics out of Kampala. Take the politics out of it. It's about service delivery. And I would say that the Lord Mayor, Elias Lukwago, he's a personable guy. He's been in politics a long time. He has a different view of his position than I have. For me, it's a position of leadership that you can bring the best values and bring development. So I feel a little sorry for him in the sense that he's been boxed in and he's there. He's Lord Mayor, but he's not Lord Mayor. He's not able to actually function.
Because of his tangible achievements so far, some sections of the public believe Clark is the man to take Kampala forward come 2016. But Clark remains undecided whether he should throw a hat in the ring during the 2016 elections.
And is that going to be a worthwhile position? If that was a worthwhile position and I could make a difference in terms of leadership, then maybe it might be something that I should consider. But if it's going to be a big political fight, NRM, those who NRM and those who don't like the NRM, and it's going to be polarized, there's not going to be a position for me who is not in that kind of politics.
Now, for Parliament to have a good quality debate that will contribute to Uganda's development, government has to formulate a law that will put a yardstick on the level of education, age and exposure. Our reporter Agnes Nandutu talked to Macquarie University's political science don, Professor Aaron Mukwaya, and former leader of opposition Nandela Mafabi, who agree with Deputy Speaker Jacob Oulanyah that the August House is not discussing issues that build the country. We have more.
On Monday this week, the Deputy Speaker Jacob Oulanyah let the cat out of the bag.
Look at the discussions that the Buangor used to have, the Dokonekions used to have, the challenges they used to have, the kind of debates they used to have. And look at our Hansards and compare the two and tell me if I'm wrong.
Makerere University don Professor Aaron Mukwaya agrees with Oulanyah.
The question of invigilating of the parliament, a parliament full of villagers, people who are not exposed, who are just like that. You choose somebody who is 18, you choose somebody who is a peasant, you choose somebody from the army. He might be a colonel, but he's not qualified.
Professor Mukwaya says Oulanyah should stop lamenting and put his words in action as an elected leader holding the position of a Deputy Speaker of Parliament.
The Deputy Speaker should advise his government, because he's an NRM person. He should tell the government that they should develop a sort of bill to reduce the members of parliament.
Anybody who is going to stand only takes leave for that period. And after it, if he wins, he resigns, then he resigns. If he loses, he goes back to his job. We're going to get quality people.
The other issue is that most of people who go in parliament, they go there as if it is a...
Alfred Ochur Okodi was elected as its first bishop, and this appointment comes at a time the Anglican Church has accepted to ordain a female bishop. Bishop Okodi, who is outgoing vicar of St. Stephen Parish, Zambia, spoke to Solomon Kawesa.
Bishop-elect Alfred Achur Okodi has always been a pious man. At his humble office, St. Stephen Parish in Zambia, the Bible is never out of his reach. However, he did not know that God would choose him for a new assignment.
I didn't even know I was a candidate until I got a surprise, a specific candidate, because I know every clergy is a candidate.
He served as a vicar at this church for 4 years and registered a number of achievements.
At one time, the churches within the parish did not come as a parish. They were a bit disintegrated, but now we are one. We are speaking as one parish.
One of his duties was to preach to police officers at Nsambia Barracks, where the church is located. He also played a key role in seeking dialogue to resolve the LRA insurgency in northern Uganda. Recently, the Anglican Church legalized the ordaining of women as bishops, a decision Okodi supports.
I don't think it's about sex, but it's about service to God, and depending on who God has called for a purpose.
Alfred Achur Okodi was born on 25th December 1954 in Aleptong district and was ordained a reverend in 1991 in Aloy Archdeaconry. Later, he served as assistant vicar at All Saints Cathedral, Nakasero, before he became vicar for St. Stephen in 2011. He has several academic awards, which include a degree in divinity attained from Bishop Tucker Theological College, now Uganda Christian University, and a Master's of Arts degree in missions from Nairobi Evangelical School of Theology. He will be consecrated on the 19th of October this year. Solomon Kawesa, NTV.
Now moving on, even in the hard times, Kenyan July 11th suspect Omar Awad Omar will flash his infectious smile. But is this man the man that led the ring of Al-Qaeda cell in East Africa, or was he simply framed? Those who know will claim that Awad is an amiable man who on the outside appears like the one who cannot harm a fly.
According to the U.S. cable leaks, one of the Kenyan terror suspects, Omar Awad Omar, was the second highest cell member in the echelons of Al-Qaeda in East Africa. Awad, who is born to a Yemen father, was arrested on September 15th alongside human rights activist Alamin Kimathi and rendition to Uganda. Awad, who had been on the radar of international security agencies, is accused of being the terrorist organization's linchpin for recruitment. Kenyan security agencies accuse Awad, also known as Abu Sahal, as the top logistician of the East African Al-Qaeda cell and the Al-Shabaab insurgents in Somalia. According to the network structure, Omar was the head of Al-Qaeda intelligence and reported directly to the late Fazul Muhammad. Below Omar is Hussein Hassan Agad, Muhammad Ali and Muhammad Suleiman, the head of the Nairobi cell. However, during an interview I held with Muhammad Suleiman's sister in Nairobi, she says that the Kenyan security agencies framed her brother and his friends.
It was a circle of friends, and they were all doing businesses. And what I can say, they had prospered. And where they used to perform their daily prayers in Jamia, I think that is where it all started. Because it's a masjid, but it has corruption in it, and the government knows about it. So for them, being strict and staunch Muslims is what brought all this. Like, if you try to look at the angle of all of them, how they were arrested and everything, there is just something fishy about it.
Nevertheless, she believes that one day justice will prevail.
And I believe in this world, like, everything that happens, it happens with the will of God. So it's a trial, actually, but at the end of the day, justice will be done.
I also spoke to an FDC politician, Michael Kawaziguruka, who spent almost a year behind the curtain walls on charges of treason, sharing the same cells with the July 11th terror suspects.
So they really missed their families. But as I said, we lived like one big family where we shared everything. We were having the same meals.
Though Awad is portrayed as the poster boy of the Al-Qaeda, Michael recalls he was one of the most amiable, often going out of his way to please others.
Knock at your door, say good morning. Can I make you a cup of tea? Sandwich. That was Omar. He was very, very outgoing. And he is one person that I miss.
Awad's father recently passed away while he was in jail, but his mother lives in Uganda. When I sought an interview from her, she said she could only comment after getting a green light from her lawyer. In the court of public opinion, Omar Awad's profile fits into a portrait of a terrorist. However, until this protracted legal battle comes to a conclusive end in a competent court with jurisdiction, Omar Awad is still innocent. Emmanuel Mutaizibwa, NTV.
Thank you so much, Emma. Of course, NTV continues to ask you if you see anything suspicious or anyone suspicious, please feel free to contact the next police officer or station. And of course, let's make sure that we stay safe. Now, moving to the boys at the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. What's your name again? Brian. Brian, good morning. How are you doing? You're in very unfamiliar turf. Is it because it's the 21st day of July 2014? Well, there we have it, coming to you as always from the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel. This time, only two of us, Joel and myself, and Brian in very unfamiliar turf. But we hope that we'll pull this off tremendously. As always, we have with us an array of newspapers: the Daily Monitor, the Daily Red Pepper, the Tri-Weekly Observer. I think the East African, which is weekly, is also with us here. And yes, the New Times of Rwanda will also be joining us shortly. Stay with us. A very good morning once again, and yes, good morning to this edition, the first of its kind for this week. Morning at NTV's Press Review. My name is Simon Kasiate, and I'm joined by Joel. Good morning, Joel.
Good morning.
Well, we have an array of newspapers here, and so there's possibly not going to be enough time for our usual chit-chat. We'll just go straight away to, start explaining what's on the front pages of these. The Daily Monitor here is talking about schools missing term 2 cash and crying foul. We are talking about schools implementing universal primary education, warned that they could be forced to close second term early because government has not released capitation grant funding.
And in some not so good news, another Ugandan arrested with drugs in China. We don't seem to learn.
Well, that one you can be very sure he's headed for the guillotine if he's found guilty. But talking about education in the Daily Monitor this morning, we are looking at a primary school teacher who's taught for 15 years without salary. This gentleman here by the names of Edward Serunjuji, whose picture is in the Daily Monitor. I mean, if you've ever seen a guy who's so patriotic, this is the quintessential face of a patriotic person. You teach pupils for 15 years. I'm sure his first pupils are now somewhere, possibly earning a living, and he's never earned not one penny. And he is pictured here in a wonderful blazer, a striped t-shirt, and some kind of good trousers and a not so good belt, which he says all these clothes were borrowed for him to make it to Kampala and see education officials just explain his plight. Can you imagine that?
Look, patriotic, I want to cut some slack for those that have decided to lay down their tools because they're not paid. Because I imagine for 15 years, he's got a family to feed. How was he, for example, transporting himself to school? How was he feeding himself? And that's
why he lived at the school. You see, many times
we usually have cassava plantations and so on.
We assume that teachers are that bad off. I mean, teachers are...
so we should not pay them.
I mean, teachers have education in schools. They have got enough land to till which doesn't belong to them but belongs to the school. Then their children possibly study for free in that kind of school. So at the end of the day, maybe life's little basics are already taken care of by the whole situation. Anyway, I just cannot fathom. And
I cannot be that patriotic that I'll be a civil servant 15 years and I don't get a pay and I keep at my job. I'll need a lot of Holy Ghost fire grace. Now, unfortunately, singer Juliana loses son. That did happen yesterday at the Aga Khan Hospital. I understand he had an asthma attack, and that is what precipitated all this.
Well, our commiserations go to you, Juliana, and your family for this loss that is beyond any measure. Let's proceed with what's in the Observer this morning. Desperate districts. Some local governments have only 8% of key staff, and this is going back to the core of there being no funding for the operations of these districts. One would want to ask the question, do you actually feel sorry for some of these districts? I see the face of these districts being this other member of parliament from Mukono, saying her municipality is among those struggling. But well, Mukono cannot be, anyway, I don't want to comment on some of these issues, but when I look at the, the growth of Mukono, the buildings that are coming up and all, this is private sector led. I mean, why don't people just realize that government is not going to feed them? But why don't they realize that, why don't they wake up to smell the coffee that government just will not manage? I mean, at the end of the day, when you hear people lamenting of how poor Uganda is and all that, I mean, if you look at me lamenting how poor Uganda is, how people are ill-fed and all that, do I look ill-fed to you? Do I look rugged to you? I have since realized that government is not going to feed me, government is not going to clothe me. So at the end of the day, I decided to provide for my own security. I pay for my own security. Roads, you see, I pay every other day you are pay,
You should work on that, Robert Mugabe.
No, I have now given up. I've decided now to work so hard and galvanize enough money to keep buying shock absorbers for my automobiles and also buy masks for the dust that is coming around. I mean, what can you do?
Good for you, good for you. But the point here is that government has got a responsibility.
Someone must pay the price for this.
Government has got a responsibility. There are positions that can only be filled by government employees through civil service and public service and that kind of thing. And that is the challenge we have. Previously they kept saying, look, we are going to create more districts and get services closer to you. And I think government prevaricated about that particular matter. It is not true, and that is why you see many districts, some have one doctor, some the best they have is a nurse. It is very unfortunate. We probably need to lessen them. A tall order it will be, of course.
Well, now there we have it. We also know that Air Uganda, which has for the most part been looked at as a national carrier, though it was privately owned, did close, and we see a huge full-page press statement in the Daily Monitor talking about the indefinite closure of the indefinite suspension of this airline. And the Observer is reporting that the suspended Air Uganda has returned its leased planes.
Quote of the day, you might like this one, considering your good friend Kalumba, the mayor of Nakawa. This is Prince Captain achieving on leaders. When voting this time around, we should reflect on and analyze what the incumbents achieved for our areas. Did they deliver on the promises they made? Did Kalumba promise to work on Robert Mugabe Road?
Why else would I be hounding that character? Anyway, he knows. Here we are. Police in Mbara seem to have blocked the Crown Prince of Ankole as he moved to attend a meeting that is supposed to galvanize support for the restoration of this kingdom. Anyway, someone asked me of the same, why don't I just give up on Karumba? I mean, why don't these people of this monarchy just give up on any move to try to restore their kingdom? Don't they realize that the ground on where they stand certainly is not very even for them?
Well, one would imagine they should not give up the fight. For how long was apartheid legal in South Africa? But these guys put up a spirited fight, and many decades later, it came to a halt. So I don't know.
You bastardized.
No, I'm just trying to make a correlation
just
here.
Last week on Friday, we were celebrating yet another International Mandela Day. And when you try to compare the fight that Mandela led to the fight of these characters who are clamoring for tribal splitting of this country, clearly you beat the.
No, it's just an example of if you persist, who knows? There could be light at the end of the tunnel for you.
Well, we are getting reports from the Red Pepper this morning that all the security bosses in Kasese were arrested, including the district police commander. And yes, the front page of the Red Pepper this morning is screaming with a headline that Mbabazi's wife snubs Museveni. Now one asks, what was Museveni's move on this lady? Secretary of Rashtura NRM Women's League meeting, Lee Kayihura raids Kanunga arrest Prime Minister's men. Now the IGP goes to Kanungu to arrest people. It's incredible.
Now, this African reports, as you proceed with the Red Paper, Museveni seeks exit strategy as things fall apart in Juba. Why did we see this coming? You know, we went there in, we did not have a very clear strategy. Perhaps we didn't have enough time to, but yeah, we go. Eventually, we've got to pull out. We've got to eat humble pie.
You know, but let's cut ourselves some slack. I mean, we averted a genocide par excellence. These guys were going to finish themselves. I can tell you, today we would be looking at a country that has broken up in cedars. That is Southern Sudan.
Without a doubt. Challenge is when we pull out, because the other guys have been, getting themselves ready.
At least they have lived this long to die the next day when we leave. I mean, we've been the bellies of life. So let them go and finish themselves and all that. We will arrest Mumbere, says the army. It's in the
I'll not be surprised if that happens. Look, I've said it here again and again, that I don't like the idiosyncrasies of police, the way they operate, but I did hear this man and I thought, no, he was quite inflammatory in his remarks. So if you arrest the Umsinga, there will be bloodshed here. I thought, no, really?
But you see, I am increasingly getting disturbed by all these tribal sentiments that keep cropping up every now and then. At first I thought maybe the likes of Mumbere, because, they have got tremendously a lot to benefit from the fact that people, clamoring to them as kings. But, you find young, well-bred guys who lived in cosmopolitan Kampala, went to schools where people spoke one unifying language. You didn't care who your neighbor or tribe your neighbor is. I mean, I find it disturbing that a guy born in a circumstance like mine in Bugolobi Flats, which was like a police barracks, there are all sorts of tribes. And today, you find someone trying to clamor and allege to a certain tribe. This weekend, I saw a post from a friend of mine whose name I will not mention, a lawyer in this town, a man who I thought was well-bred from a good family in this Kampala, drumming up tribal sentiments and all that. Incidentally, I abhor that kind of thing. Never mind the fact that, in fact, I relatedly, in fact, have very close tribal links with him. But for me, that's not an issue. He is now crying foul over his tribe being marginalized at one point and blah, blah, some people being denied entry into certain government institutions because of their that tribe bollocks in the highest order. Anybody in this day and age who is trying to drum up tribals, anyway, I just don't understand these people. Perhaps it explains why, for me, I woke up, found a nice lady. I didn't care what tribe or what.
And that's the way it should be.
I married them.
That's the way it should be. Hopefully, I should pick a leaf or a whole forest.
Anyway, I can tell you.
The culture is good. Culture has its good tenets about it, and then it's not so good ones which we need to throw out the window.
Joel, and then there's outright tribalism. I mean, if I found you practicing your culture, or if you call me for your nuptials, and you say, Simon, I'm going to wear a kanzu because this is my traditional, whatever. I mean, I respect that. But the fact that I start looking at you differently because you are a Muganda and I am not, or the fact that certain Munyarwanda, Mufumbira, or Muchiga was denied a job at one time and I start crying more than they believed, yet I have mine here. For me, I find that bullshit, so to speak. I mean, I'm sorry to say this on air,
but I see your point. I see your point.
We
are more similar than we are different. We should front the fact that for starters, we are Ugandans, then we can be Muluri, I don't know, Muchiga, and whatever else.
For me, this whole thing of, and people don't understand that, in fact, the closer people are, we've seen the most divisive people are people who are so closely knitted. I mean, this genocide in Rwanda was not orchestrated between people who spoke a different language, who professed a different creed. Just because of the shape and size of one's nose, then they get into each other's throats and slit each other. And you ask yourself, what's wrong with humanity?
But you see, the problem actually is a lot more than meets the eye. You know, these sentiments and so on, they have been hovering all over the place for decades. I don't know what we will do, but there is some looming kind of fear. You know, tension has been there. It's not going to go away in a day, because previously there were tribes that were preponderant over the others. They would roughshod over them, bully them as it were, and people are angry. One would imagine rightfully so. Of course, we need to transcend that, move on, heal, and that kind of thing. It might not happen in a day.
What has your tribe got to do with what you are today?
What is that?
I mean, I have had my formative years in total struggle and living a hellish existence. There was you know, there was
you are not a part of the quote-unquote right tribe.
No, well, but you see, even my wrong,
been born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
The problem is even those with the wrong tribes per se also galvanize themselves. Oh, we are this. We are. I mean, when you see.
So you're tribalistic also. What do you mean by wrong tribes?
Like you just say that I don't come from the right tribe. Then I'm like, okay. So there are also those who are from the wrong tribe also boistering around, and you ask yourself, at what point does tribe begin to become anything relevant to you? Anyway, this can go on for decades on end, but I think anybody, especially in our day and age, you see, I can understand our parents. You see, this character who was posting on Facebook, his parent went to the local area primary school, perhaps went to the biggest secondary school that was in their district. Just like if you were born in Mbarara, you go to Mbarara Municipal, you go to Ntare School. If, God forbid, you end, then when you come to Makerere University, you join the Mbara Students Association, Mbara Makerere University Students Association. It is from that association that you pick a wife who comes from Kabwerebere and you come from Isinjiro. At the end of the day, I can understand if someone doesn't understand that there are people from other tribes who also think and reason like them. But a child who was born here in Nakasero, you went to Nakasero Primary School and found there Ofumbi, you found there Kasiate, you found there Tolit, you found there Waiswa. You went to Makerere University, or perhaps even went to Nottingham University and saw Cheng and saw someone from Brazil and met someone from Malaysia, and you come back to Uganda in this day and
maybe
age.
Perhaps that's the very reason that, you know, they got into the predicament they're in. That's probably what precipitated it. They realized,
anyway,
I don't know, but we need to do something about it, without a doubt.
To understand how someone with that kind of global outlook can then retreat to the mundane local tribal fermentations. And you see, I can understand if the guy is talking about...
I don't know who that is.
If he continues making those preponderous posts, he has his Facebook, I have this morning show, we will take it on. Because honestly, I cannot understand this. He has got his fan club, I will galvanize mine.
All right, this African reports about flights limits cost Kenya and Uganda $150 million. Of course, we have a quandary on our hands. This country used to have Uganda Airlines that dissipated. Then we had Air Uganda, well, privately owned, but it put a face to our name and that kind of thing. It is no more, unfortunately.
I mean, when you have a country where young people should be taking the mantle of leadership and taking us to further places,
have very tribalistic.
To the little whatever. You think such a guy has the brain to think of fomenting a proper national career that can salvage the image of this country? I tell you, we are in, you called it a what? A quandary. Multiply that by 20. Sacked Red Cross chief, never evaded taxes, says Uganda Revenue Authority. Now, Mr. Mike Wanataka here has risen up from the ashes and redeemed his name, so to speak.
He did run in that by-election.
Who unto those in his constituency who were campaigning him on the account of him being corrupt? The URA has cleared him. It is here.
But I remember there was a court case, and even though URA, you know, extricates him from this, he still has a day in court, if I remember right.
Now, if URA was one of the biggest guys to witnesses on the other side to pin him, and now they have extricated him, that means the court case is going to fall flat on its face. I do not know.
Good for the gentleman. Now, somebody writes something interesting here in the East African. Africa needs strong central governments to rise, not civil society. You want to believe yes and no, because we need a very strong civil society, you know, for checks and balances. If it is not infiltrated like sometimes, you know, some of our civil society organizations here are by external forces. But ultimately, we need strong governments, but I think even stronger citizens.
Well, we're seeing news for you, Kampala residents, except those on Robert Mugabe Road, that Kampala lights have been lit with solar lamps. It's a story here in the Daily Monitor.
Well, we've got, you see in this country, we've got a plethora of promises and a paucity when it comes to delivery, you know, so I feel your pain. However, like you keep saying, we should not wait for government. So you need to do something. Organize your residents of Robert Mugabe, I don't know, is that an LC village or something?
It is a road.
And do something.
Well, here we have it. Now, you know that King Oyo has just completed his week-long fasting, which I'm told he's going to turn into an annual kingdom activity. And, well, you'd say, unfortunately, part of his convoy was involved in an accident.
Yes.
You know, when on his way back to Kampala, and one wants to ask the question, is there anything that meets the eye?
Well, perhaps if he had not fasted, it would have been a lot worse, just saying. But good for him, good for his fasting and the rest.
Well, we have a special report today in the Daily Monitor that's talking about antiretroviral therapy. And we are looking at what it's like for a child to be on ARVs. This is an interesting story for one to take a look at very closely.
The Observer reports lecturers, students want Mark VC to quit. This is a gentleman that's been in office for not too long, Professor John Dumba Sentamu, but people think that he's not as charismatic, he's not handled the affairs of the university as well as, you know, they expected. There was a lot of hope in him, but I guess people imagine he bit off a lot more than he could chew.
Well, in Healthy Living, which is your favorite Monday pull out in the Daily Monitor, we're looking at cleft lip and how surgery brought back one child's smile. So for those of you who find yourselves in this kind of condition, it's never too late to get redemption. Let's get down into the Observer this morning.
And talking about the Observer, somebody writes a letter and says, public demonstrations essential for democracy. You want to think otherwise in this our country where there's freedom of speech, but there's no freedom after speech. But we need to let people be, for goodness sake, yeah? Let these demonstrations be monitored, but you see, when you push people to the wall a great deal, there are, you know, when I used to do physics, we used to say action and reaction are equal but opposite. So there will be some kind of reaction.
That is Newton's third law of motion.
Ah, you know. I thought you did hell or something.
You'll be surprised. Physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics. Don't ask me what I'm doing next to you on this morning.
You should be treating us in hospitals or something.
Well, I think fate and divine intervention had a better vocation for myself. Could you imagine me again? Fufa Boss CEO to be investigated is a story we are seeing in the gossip section of the Red Paper. Now, why would it be in the gossip section? It should have been somewhere prominent in the sports section, but there we have it. So one wants to ask, does it really, really merit the place where it is, or should have been one of those very, very important stories put in the story of the sports section?
Is the internet damaging our reading culture? Somebody asks here in the Observer. Look, the only book some young people ever read is Facebook, yeah? And we need to be very careful. There's lots of wealth of information in books. We need to encourage young people to do so. But, but there's also good books on the internet. So if you're there for the right reasons.
I mean, they don't even read newspapers for that matter. That's why they're always against us when we just gloss over the newspapers and not read for them. Page 3, then you read. Page 4,
whole story.
Then the other. Then
written by Felix Eupal and that kind of thing.
Well, in the business section of the Daily Monitor this morning, we are waking up to know that COMESA has earmarked 190 billion Uganda shillings for Kampala Jinja Highway expansion. Quite very interesting there. So the ride to Jinja only just got better.
Good for you. At least as you ride to Jinja, you're safe. You know, Robert Mugabe is a smaller portion. You'll be okay.
It's an incredible situation. Now let's get down to Brian Mulondo, who may need to share with us what's happening on the international scene. Do we still have a place in this world or on the world map called Gaza, or has it been bombed shreds and into oblivion? Brian, what do you have on the international scene?
So much, Simon, and of course the debate continues after the attack of the MH17 plane that was, for lack of a better word, attacked by Russia. Those are the rumors, but Russia is denying. And of course, they say the plane just crashed. And the question does MH produce flights that are technically faulty, or this was an orchestrated attack by Russia? So we'll take a look at the BBC. And one of the first stories is the MH plane crash. Kerry points finger at Russia. Now, one of the things that has, of course, caused concern is that the plane that went down had about 100 HIV AIDS activists that were researching, and people are concerned that maybe the cure for HIV was on that flight. And so the world is mourning the flight going down, but maybe those infected by HIV, and of course the research that has poured into this might have been on that plane. A couple of people who are very instrumental in discovering the use of antiretroviral drugs and prevention of mother-to-child transmission were on that flight too. Very, very sad. And of course Russia continues to deny that we did not bring this down. All 298 people who were on that flight, all dead. And you see some of the body bags there, and a very, very sad story. And Secretary of State John Kerry, very, very really not happy with what happened there and attacking Russia for that. Of course, Sky also goes on and says, you know what, Putin, this was probably his last nail in the coffin. And Putin says, well, while investigations are still going on, we need to make sure that people are protected, the experts that are investigating the flight, so the crash. So that's really an update on what happened there. Now moving on, the BBC also highlights what's happening in Africa. Gunmen killed 4 people in Mombasa. And a couple of questions that are raised. One, is Kenya really doing anything as far as insecurity is concerned? We just saw an attack in Lamu, now Mombasa. But also, who are these people? The Al-Shabaab. Are they operating in smaller groups? Does Kenyan security actually understand what the Al-Shabaab is about? And of course, this is also hampering the tourism potential of Kenya in the long run. And of course, it was the center of the Arab Spring, Libya, and another renewed fighting in at Libya airport. They are very, very sad that countries that tried to stop dictatorship are now going through another season of bloodbath. Friday, it was Mandela Day, and of course South Africans cleaning up, doing all the good things. Remember, this man served about 27 years in prison, and when he got out, he became the first black president of South Africa. And they tried to do this. So President Zuma telling people, make sure you spend about 67 minutes of community service. And that's because at 67 is when he became the president. On Friday would have been his 96th birthday, but of course he passed on. And so South Africans are going to mark that day. Africa. Rwanda is clean, but who brought Emmett? A story here, science here. All right. This man and things on the street. His sunglasses. Will get them from the 2K to Fox and try and order the.
Brian Mulondo.
Simply send and receive money, top up your airtime or data, pay for utility bills, groceries, fuel, and much more with Airtel Money, and you could be one of the day's 5 lucky winners. And if Mr. Money and his crew find you making a transaction, you win cash on the spot. Terms and conditions apply.
Airtel Money. Simple, secure, instant.
Coming soon on NTV.
Team Uganda is a group of players deliver the whole
2 days before you arrived.
No, for us we went there.
The city auto.
And says that
they do. Who are these people?
Now, on
these are youth. What youth?
They had whereby some people believe that some certain leaders are supposed to be in charge of the reserve area.
When we talk about leaders, we're talking about traditional leaders.
Cultural leaders.
Cultural leaders.
Because we can just see that recently, the Bamba wa there was a new king that was instituted to the Bamba. The Omudingia wa Bamba, who's the new cultural leader of the Bamba. And during that time, you can just see that last year, they had blocked the Rwenzori king
Omusinga from going to
Bundibujo, saying that he's unpopular there. So you can see all that happening and taking place. And you can also see that in Kasese, the Omusinga was ready, they say the Bakonjo attacked the Basongora, who had also just gotten a cultural leader.
Yes. Now tell me something. When where did these youth come from, and why would they attack an army barrack? In your understanding, because this is a question we've been asking ourselves. If there's a tribal chief, I mean, you say there could be other dimensions to it, but tell me, if there's a tribal chief, these guys descended from wherever they descended from, wearing t-shirts with inscriptions, youth of Rwenzururu, and they went straight for government installations and a financial institution. Can you therefore describe that as a tribal clash? Or was it an attack on government and therefore a rebellion par excellence?
It is very hard. It is very hard to determine the intentions of these people. These people are descending from Mount Rwenzori, going towards the army barracks. One might say, because for me, the information I got from security forces on the ground is that these...
Are they the most reliable to give information? I mean, if they had information, all this wouldn't have happened. So
but we have to listen to all parties. That's one thing that you cannot rule out. They told us that these people wanted to obtain guns. But you're looking at a radical group of youth who are putting on charms to protect them from bullets. And they're holding spears, pangas, and they're attacking a place where they know there are machine guns. You have to look for the zeal and motivation and what could have pushed them to that extent.
And that is the million-dollar question. What is that desperation that beats all sorts of logical understanding to know that you are faced with an insurmountable force, and yet your zeal is what pushes you against it? But as they descended down the mountains, I mean, we are told that there are tribal clashes. Rwenzururu youth running down towards Bundibujo town to attack an army barracks. Did they meet Bamba along the way?
They met Bamba. They even passed through communities of the Bamba, but their target was not the Bamba people.
They didn't touch no Mwamba person.
No person was killed in Bundibujo. The only people who were killed were, let's say, the Osis police station, who was killed that day, and they saw that his bodyguard had a gun, and they wanted to take the gun, and indeed they took the gun.
So if the OC had no gun on him, he possibly would have survived.
If he was wearing, if he had no gun on him, okay, he was in plain clothes, that I can say, but he had a bodygun and he came on a motorcycle with police plates. For them, I think, in their perception, any person who was coming from the security agency was an enemy at that particular point in time.
We've seen a story coming in from you talking about mass graves. Mass graves at Kanyamirima Army Barracks, mass graves somewhere close to the police station. Who is in these mass graves? How old are these mass graves? Can you explain a little more about these mass graves?
Actually, we tried to investigate the issue of the mass graves, and we went to a place called Bundimulombi. That is about 15 kilometers away from Bundibujo town. And there, that's where we found a mass grave of about, the LC1 chairman told us that there are about 5 people who had been buried, and they got an order from the commander from Kanyamirima Army Barracks. We are not sure. They didn't tell us the commander who gave them the orders.
So, hey, 5 people in a grave cannot be described par excellence as a mass grave. Aren't we exaggerating the story here?
But do you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to downplay. We're trying to see a situation whereby not every information that is coming out is the right information. Because we have been told that that's not the only grave that we were challenged, and we even tried to look for several places.
These young men or the youth that you talked about who had inscriptions on t-shirts and were fed like trees on a power saw in Bundibujo town, perhaps they never had their relatives come and claim their bodies, and they had the government institutions there had no way of preserving these bodies to wait for relatives come and claim their bodies, so they had to move them into a mass.
Let me tell you something.
Isn't that an understandable mode of burial?
Over 60 people attacked Kanyamirima Army Barracks, and were killed. Over 60 people were killed as they were trying to attack Kanyamirima Barracks. But only 2 bodies were claimed. Where did the other bodies go?
And that's the question I'm asking.
That's the question.
The people in those
now the bodies are those the graves I'm talking about. The graves I'm talking about are not the graves of the people who attacked Kanyamirima Army Barracks.
You're kidding me.
No, these are bodies of people. Okay, let's say they attacked Kanyamirima Army Barracks, but they were killed within certain communities. Because the place I'm telling you, Bundimulombi, is about 20 kilometers away, or 10 to 20 kilometers away from Kanyamirima Army Barracks. So
who could have killed who?
So the question is this. Did these people run away from Kanyamirima Army Barracks with gunshot wounds, and they died along the way?
And get buried down
there? Or there are certain people within the community who took the law into their own hands to lynch them and kill them? Because for me, what I can tell you, Simon, that I saw with my own eyes is that I saw 2 dead bodies within the market area of Bundibujo, burnt.
So these could not have been killed by AK-47s, they were banned.
They were banned.
And this is a story that is quite more than just meets the eye. There is also an elephant in the room with regard to this grand story of your experience in Bundibujo. And we are told that when all hell broke loose And then President Museveni says security agencies have shown an epic level of incompetence. Then the Inspector General of Police goes down there. And then we see the whole security apparatus descending on Bundibujo and Kasese. We are told that the mode of arrest of suspects, brutality of the arresting officers has not been precedented anywhere in this country in our post-colonial history. Is that true? Or
what I can tell you is that I think you all watched the news on Saturday and you saw the level of brutality that was imposed on some of the suspects that had been arrested. For me, the suspects that I'm talking about are suspects who came on a government pickup truck and they were just outside the police station, but of course they were arrested. But we were also shocked ourselves to see the level in which they were being beaten.
Why were they being beaten? Had they resisted arrest? Were they trying to appear obstinate? Were they hurling insults at the arresting officials? What is it that could have precipitated the arresting authority to such an extent of meting out that level of brutality?
These are people who have already been overpowered.
They have surrendered.
They have surrendered because there's no way you can say that they dragged them, they started beating them, and you can even see them crying out in pain. Another thing for me, what I even saw that really beat my understanding is how a security operative can get a rock and hit it to the head of a man. These things were happening in broad daylight, early morning.
And they allowed you, Suhail Mugabe, with your NTV camera to stand there and film this debacle as it went on, or you picked this footage from a source that you possibly are not willing to disclose?
I'm not willing to disclose my source, but I'm telling you that we had to use tactical means to get that footage and that very video recording.
And this is video recording that you as Suhail can ascertain is authentic.
It's
there's video footage, what we see on TV. And what about you? What did you see with your naked eye as Suhail?
For me, I can guarantee that even if you bring any security expert or any person who has a lot of experience in camera work, he can definitely tell you that that video is authentic. And what else I can say is that maybe during because even the police spokesperson said that was a tense moment for some of the security agencies. We are seeing that a policeman two policemen had just been killed, and you can understand.
They were venting out that kind of.
You can understand the frustration and anger that most of them have. And he says that okay, although some people could have gone ahead to do or carry out such activities, it does not reflect that the whole institution has its only the rotten eggs within the institution.
But for how long are we going to keep talking? Anyway, you're not the police spokesperson. I possibly will ask this to Fred Enanga when I next meet him. But tell me, for how long can we keep talking about rotten eggs amongst the folk of the communion of saints that the Uganda police is, that continue to mete out these unfathomable attacks on civilians, especially those under their own surrender?
But Simon, what I can tell you is that they were not only policemen, they were also army personnel, and we have always seen that the army has a very, very good display of discipline, especially when it comes to such situations. The army has always been outstanding when it comes to discipline, and they always, yeah, it has been outstanding because we have seen every person who has committed atrocities within the army turns up to usually gets the firm hand of the law.
The court-martial,
the court-martial. But we are seeing that some of them were dressed in army fatigue. We are seeing some of them dressed in police uniform. But what really bothers me is that these acts took place outside a police station.
Right outside on the compound of the police station. And nothing could be done to, have a civilian force. So does that lend credence to the fact that indeed this police has been militarized and perhaps even bastardized for that matter?
I cannot say that I cannot say that everyone was clapping in support of the incident. We saw some people trying to tell them, stop beating these people, let them go inside. We saw some leaders trying to do that, but I think the people were so annoyed, so overwhelmed with anger.
That show of brutality is supposed to act as a deterrent measure to those in the community like yourselves who were there watching this whole debacle, not to even think about idea of rebellion or even attack on police stations. How about that?
No, for me I cannot say that, because for me what I can tell you that these people, as soon as they attack the army barracks, that's why they're even facing the court-martial. These are civilians, but they're facing the court-martial. Why are you asking yourself that? Is that some of them had guns? Some of them had guns.
So they had arsenal that is an exclusivity of armed forces. But Suhail, you left Bundibujo at a point where there's the due process of the law taking place. There's a court-martial sitting in these areas, Kasese and Bundibujo. But tell us about the situation there. Is it calm? Is business back to normal? Are people in their workplaces? Are they back to their gardens? Are those who descended from the hills back to their hills? Are people in Bundibujo, say, possibly even watching us this morning and not afraid of what's going to fly through the window?
What I can tell you is that Bundibujo is secure right now. There's a lot of security. The situation is calm. But the
calm or tense? Because you know there is when you have this, you know.
For now, the situation is calm. When I was there, it was tense. But what I can also tell you is that these people are still recovering from the trauma. Because most of the people who are killed are people within the community. You're seeing that the youth, some of the youth who are killed.
Earlier on in our chit-chat, Suhail, you talked about 3 radicalized youth groups in the western region. And you mentioned them. You may wish to share this with our viewers.
What I can say in the Rwenzori area, most especially in the western part of Uganda, there are 3 groups, all they pay allegiance to their king.
Their respective kings.
Their respective kings. The first group I can tell you is the Empagi Odingia. These are the youth of the king of the Bamba, the youth of the Odingia. Then we have
highly radicalized. They believe in their
king. They believe in their king and they can stand for their institution, and they really have strong faith and love for the institution. The other youth is the Esiomango Rwenzururu. These are the youth of the Rwenzururu, and these are the youth who really have a passion and strong will for Obusinga. And then we have the Amachumu Nebitara Byarukirabasaija. These are the youth of the Toro King.
The ones who came walking to present a petition to
present a petition to Parliament, and when they went back to Fort Portal,
they received a
hero's welcome. So you can understand what I'm talking about. So you wouldn't be surprised that they can do anything for their kingdoms if at all they have something they believe in. And what I can also tell you is that there's also an element of indoctrination. You find that these are youth who are very passionate about their kingdoms and their kings.
But do these youth engage in any other productive means of survival other than just, you know, hang around the king's court and feeding on to unmeted indoctrination and getting ready for combat?
Most of the youth who belong to the Amachumu Nebitara Byarukirabasaija are youth who have gone to university, the Uganda Pentecostal University in Fort Portal and some universities here in Uganda. And these are youth who have a substantive way. They're carrying out very good activity.
They're educated.
Some of them are educated. We're also looking at the youth of the Esiomango Rwenzururu. Most of them are youth who are working within the community. Some of them who attacked.
Are they educated?
I cannot say that because some of them were working as waiters, as border cyclists, and others were working, but they have something to do. The others are
engaged
farmers
in a day-to-day activity that earns them some bread.
Yeah.
The same applies to those from the Bamba, the Mpaji. Have these 3 youth groups, so to speak, hypothetically met somewhere, and if at all they did meet, what do you think would happen?
It would spell disaster.
What are the grievances of the Ebitara and Amachumu, for example, that you talk about, the youth of Toro? Are they angry that their kingdom has been decimated into Bamba, Wera, now Basongora and all that? Or are they that... what is the motivation?
That is an inclined belief that you cannot also rule out. And we are also looking at we are also looking at a case scenario whereby the Obusinga Rwenzururu, the Omusinga believes that the Rwenzori region is supposed
to be under him. So there shouldn't be a Bamba community.
And you're saying that there are certain youth who believe that our king should be
the overall.
The overall. Now just imagine if he's meeting with a youth who believe that the king of Bundibujo and the Bamba community is the one who deserves to rule this part.
So here, as we conclude this, of course, I just want to ask you from your own personal understanding and analysis. You have been in there and seen what the troubles of tribal inclinations are. When you come back to the confines of Kampala, where you find a cosmopolitan community, you possibly don't even know what tribe I am, I don't even care, or know even which part of the country you come from. But we work together amicably. When you look back at what you've gone through, or what the communities where you've been reporting this story have gone through, what would you say to people in this day and age who are still going around spewing tribal sentiments and also trying to show an exaggerated sense of self-worth because they belong to certain tribes?
What I can tell such people is that, please, let's look at a situation whereby we don't propel our tribal beliefs beyond our humanitarian beliefs. Because if we look at it this way, there's one thing that we really wouldn't want to see. That's a genocide. Because if we see a genocide taking place in this day and age here in Uganda, that would be the worst case scenario that we could even ever determine. Because if we find sentiments coming out on tribal grounds, lashing out at certain people and trying to provoke or invoke hatred towards people because of their tribal beliefs, that is a very bad thing, and it can spell a type of disaster that you can't believe. Because when it comes to believing into cultural institutions, religions, there's one thing that you cannot rule out, that is radicalism.
Tell me something, I find this a travesty. For the most part, especially this young generation of people, many of them cannot properly speak their own mother tongue. They would never give a speech on their father's grave before a mammoth crowd of mourners in their local language. Their children don't speak their mother tongue. They do not even, they go to the village as a ritual. Yeah? They have no that physical attachment to their own. When you see them today speaking about their, and prostrating around, in fact, even dropping their Christian names and keeping their traditional names on board, don't you look at them as some hell of bunch of pretenders who are just trying to cover up of their own inadequacies or not being able to know what's around them?
I wouldn't blame the children, because Simon, basically what we are seeing that this is a day and age whereby very many of the youth, the ones in the rural areas, still stay true to their tribes.
I'm talking about the ones in this urban youth,
the urban youth,
even in Kampala
now. Seeing what they're watching
on Facebook, they are posting, crap, talking about tribes, and they cannot speak their own mother tongue.
Simon, everything has changed. We are living in a day and age where people are where the way children are thinking is being shaped by what they watch on TV. They are very exposed. The other time we had only one TV station, UTV, but now we are looking at a situation whereby we have DSTV, a whole variety of TV stations. Then we're also looking at a situation whereby, leave alone having that TV, we have exposure to internet, smartphones. People are going to copy the Western trends because that's what they enjoy. They will listen to the kind of music, and then they will go, and then in the long run, they'll end up forgetting their what?
Their culture.
Their culture. And that is something that the parents should try to do to protect.
So in other words, you're looking at the protection of culture as opposed to the radicalization that's caused by tribalism. Because I want to believe that these are two different things, certainly. There's cultural preservation, but there is also radicalization.
Stay true to your culture.
But that does not make you run roughshod over others because you think your culture is superior to theirs.
Superior to the others.
You well said, Suhail. Let's take a short break. When we return, as Simon says, as we conclude this edition of Morning at NTV's Big Story. Well, there you've had it, an inside look, perhaps something of the untold story extent. Our own reporter Suhail Mugabe returning from Bundibujo after 2 weeks in there and reporting on the incidents therein, so seeing and counting on first-hand accounts of what exactly was taking place in that part of the country. He comes back here and shares with us exactly what he did see. But for the most part, as I conclude this program, we can see that what's playing out in this region is something that is deplorable. That in this day and age, while we want to consolidate, respect, and of course build our cultures, I think it's wrong for a people to have an exaggerated sense of self-worth because of their tribe, creed, or even a race for that matter. And playing out very directly in Uganda, when I see friends, people who have lived in a cosmopolitan setting, people who have had the exposure, people who have known the history of some of these radicalizations and the adverse effects they've had on humanity, going ahead to foment some of these tribal sentiments, it hurts me that you are even using the blood of young people that are easily gullible. You've heard of the youth groups, the youth groups from the different little tribes. Why use these people? I mean, I honestly cannot fathom a situation where you are trying to use other people to foment a situation for your own pecuniary need. As we conclude this morning, go out. It does not matter what tribe you are from. It does not matter what religion you profess. It does not even matter what color your skin has, or even the size of your nose for that matter. What matters is what's inside you and your ability to use that to be productive for your own good, and by extension, if every one of us had works for our own good, it would spread out the people around us, and by far extension, this country would move from one stage to the other stage where we have always wished it to be. Have a productive day. Keep away from tribal sentiments. Spit on those who talk about their tribes and claim they are more, virulent than others and all that. Respect people's culture, yes, but shun those who come around with an exaggerated sense of self-worth, or even who cry foul because of whatever happened in their tribal settings. That, in my view, is primitive and deplorable. And those who are perpetuating it, woe unto you, shame unto you. Good morning. Let's have a wonderful start to the week, and God bless.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
You can bring everybody in parliament as long as they can wake up and vote for the NRM.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am a Muyai?
It's absolutely true. I admired President Museveni.
Is the ICC a fiscal code targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about only the two individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
Nyakairo People's Cooperative Saving and Credit Society Limited, SACCO, located in Nyakairo Sub-County in Mbarara District, shares a success story of an institution supported by Microfinance Support Center. The SACCO began in 2001.
Our first loan from Microfinance Support Center was 50 million shillings. We got it in 2009, and it boosted our loan portfolio from 35 million to 130 and above.
And I get to know about where they get money. For also, I got information that they can also provide money to companies or SMEs.
With only 243 members, now has grown to a bigger financial institution with over 2,900 members across the district.
Our savings has grown to 1,469,500,000.
At the pivot of the SACCO's growth is the Microfinance Support Center, which provided business development services in form of a commercial loan and managerial training services.
Obonyumirwa ebyemizannyo jangu nkulage.
Does! And Adam Johnson, the boyhood Newcastle United man, historic, flying in the face of all football logic. A magnificent goal by Robbie van Persie. Ferdinand! Everton lead at Old Trafford. Walcott, Giroud. Suarez. Super Suarez. Gonna backs it up.
All of them back.
Danger's a bigger problem than I thought.
It's
really inspiring.
Respect culture, but and the frustration.
Window one, only Avenue was getting
arrested for having
called that. Before that, there was
what makes it, for example,
conditions back by global events, and of course, challenge what is happening in the U.S. So they are able to bring in their dollars. The importers who want to buy dollars. So both buy imports.
So exporters are
like you and I.
Yeah.
Of course, if you have it's appreciating, and supply, which you take a profit. That's speculation.
This morning from joining us at morning, I decide to in case we want those services.
Yes, we have a website, www.alphacap.co.ug. We actually do market commentaries. We give outlooks for where the exchange rate is likely to go. We have been a gateway in terms of bringing in investors who would want to have a view, independent view on what is going on in the markets. Our offices are located on Charm Towers now, on the ground floor. You can come walk in and we will be able to talk to you. But visit our website and see what we do.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to trade some dollars this morning. And I know someone here was asking, why don't you just print more dollars like Amin did? That would cause inflation. Come on. At least I know that, yet I'm not an expert. Isma, it's definitely not about the foreign exchange, but they just released clubs that some of the richest in the world, and of course Man United, Barcelona, and Real Madrid on that list. Is this a surprise for you?
Not at all. Not at all. I think the names that are there don't surprise me. But it's always one team that surprises me. It's the Dallas Cowboys in the American Football League. They haven't won the Super Bowl since 1995, but never too far away from the top 5 clubs in the world in terms of finance. But I don't think many fans follow this that closely. It's about probably a cheer and just having an argument. But thereafter, I think it doesn't mean much. It's about winning, because that's the only thing that cleanses you as a sportsman. And we talk about how Massa was cleansed at the weekend with that goal. Then there's Rory McIlroy also cleansed. Liverpool also getting some cleansing. Financially, maybe not, but they won their first preseason game over the weekend. And then, Brian, there's a bit of transfers. Arsenal have signed a goalkeeper. I'll tell you who he is.
Fear to ask, maybe he costs about £2,000. But we'll find out when we return. Stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
I've received the
Vanage chadala tevalimba Airtel kakwirawo sentence funye ne message yinu. I have received 200,000 shillings of Uganda. Mwebale nnyo abakakwirawo.
Kituufu towakana akakadde kalamba kagwirawo buli lunaku ku Airtel Money. Kyangu nnyo weereza obafuna ensimbi sako airtime oba internet, sasula biru zo, amafuta n'ebirala ng'okozesa Airtel Money. Oyinza okuba omukuba nnamukisa abataano abagenda okuwangula ensimbi buli lunaku. Ate singa Mr. Money n'ekibinja kye bakusanga ng'olina ky'okolako ne Airtel Money, owangulirawo ensimbi mbagirawo. Amateeka n'obukwakkulizo bigobererwa.
Airtel Money. Simple, secure, instant.
Nyakairo People's Cooperative Saving and Credit Society Limited, SACCO, located in Nyakairo Sub-County in Mbarara District, shares a success story of an institution supported by Microfinance Support Center. The SACCO began in 2001.
Our first loan from Microfinance Support Center was 50 million shillings. We got it in 2009, and it boosted our loan portfolio from 35 million to 130 and above.
And I get to know about where they get money. For also, I got information that they can also provide money to companies or SMEs.
With only 243 members, now has grown to a bigger financial institution with over 2,900 members across the district.
Our savings has grown to 1,469,500,000.
But the pivot of the SACCO's growth is the Microfinance Support Center, which provided business development services in form of a commercial loan and managerial training services.
Coming soon on NTV. Soon on NTV.
The average age of the entire national team is under 18. And
the primary role of Team Uganda is to remain to Division 2.
Probably that's the only thing that can make one or two rugby fans smile, that the Cubs are doing well.
The players have not put on they have not wore the game faces. They're not the animals we saw last season, because Ferguson had the same group of players and he did deliver the Holy Grail, which is the title.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
On the next episode of Deception.
Bamuyitani?
Ye Namuli.
Namuli?
Sebo.
Ate ddala?
Sirimanyi naye oyinza okumuyita erya kitaawe Katungulu.
Katungulu.
Ngulu ddala nga Katungulu oniyoni.
Kano ketuli akomuva.
You asked me to start over, and that's exactly what I did. I started over.
If you're to start over, then please try and be a little less predictable.
I want to give you a word of caution. I don't want you to hold for anyone or anything. Go bring those records straight over to me.
Deception.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and never fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
Ten on to 9. Thank you so much for staying with us. And this beautiful Monday morning, I'm with Isma Daka Bachigongo, who seems to have had a very local weekend of sport.
Weekend of fun, weekend that I wouldn't have spent better. I had to skip a friend's wedding because it was going to take a lot of time out of my schedule. I wouldn't be able to. I didn't be able to watch enough Massa and then probably make it to the mosque after 7 p.m. On Saturday evening. So I opted out of that, and there are so many functions like this brand, by the way. I do opt out of weddings, out of kwanjulas, out of all kinds of things, just because there is what they call the first love. I've always jokingly told several friends of mine, especially the women, that however much I might have something for you, sport first. But that doesn't mean, you know how women love to put themselves between. It's like, you know, you've had this.
Choose.
It's either Arsenal or me. And I'm thinking, it's got to be Arsenal. Don't dare me tell you that. Because it's serious, I'll tell you.
Really?
Yeah, I want to tell you that. But I don't want to say it, so don't dare me to say it.
No ultimatums. If you're dating Isma, no ultimatums. All right. But the weekend brought some good news, especially for Uganda. 2 second-half goals. Probably crossed Uganda over the line against Mauritania, but will it be enough?
Brian Majega and Geoffrey Massa and everyone involved with the national team should think it will be enough, because based on the first half performance, when the Cranes were not getting anything going, probably there was a big fear that they could probably leave the home tie here in Kampala and try to travel to Mauritania, having not got the result they needed. But eventually, I think if you had given the Cranes a 2-0 lead to carry into that second leg 2 weeks from now, they would have taken it. If you told them you'll be leading 2-0 from after the final whistle, after 90 minutes, they would have taken the result. But I also think that it will only be enough if the Cranes go there and don't concede as many. I've seen so many results across Africa. Remember a few years ago when we lost, I think, 3-1 to Congo-Brazzaville, and then beat them here by 4 goals to 0. All the results across Africa, every team needs to play very well, are only at home. And actually, I was looking at across Africa, all the results, and I could only tell, I think it was Mozambique who drew 2-2 with Tanzania in Dar es Salaam. All the other results, including Lesotho, who beat up on Kenya by 0-0. That tells you about the story about African teams are good at home. And I saw Congo-Brazzaville beat Rwanda by 2 goals. So Milton Sredejevic, the coach, or Mitchell, has got to think that this has got to be enough. But there's got to be a bit of an improvement. I think for me, the biggest satisfaction from the game has got to be the fact that, one, they brought a player off the bench in Brian Majega and he got the goal, and 2, we didn't concede. on the day.
That's important.
That's very, very important because if Mauritania had an away goal, then it would have been totally different. Though they didn't look like they were going to score, even if you had given him 3 days in Uganda. Because Dennis Onyango was expected on the pitch.
Star,
he barely had anything. There was no shot on target.
He was in training.
Yeah, for the Mauritanians. They didn't have a shot on target for the entire 90 minutes. Wow. So I think it was an easy ride eventually on the defensive side of things. But then on the other side, probably we should have got a bit more. Probably one other goal should have brought a lot more cover. But 2-0, it's a bit of a knife-edge situation, especially in Africa, because the home team always gets the results. And I remember in the last round, before Mauritania got here, they beat up on Equatorial Guinea at home when they were playing at home in Mauritania by 1-0, and then lost the return leg in Equatorial Guinea. So it's got to be something that they can win. Can they score more than 1 goal?
That's the question.
Mauritania are not a superpower in African football. They don't look like they would score more than 1. At least on based on what they did on Saturday.
So just need to get to Mauritania, score an early goal, then see what...
If we do get a goal, and unlucky we don't score that many when we travel. That's why I think we've only won 2 or 3 games in the last 10 or 15 years. The one in Malawi and the one in Guinea-Bissau. Malawi back in Thailand and won by 2-1. And then 2012 in Guinea-Bissau when David Obua scored. We don't score that many away from home. We don't actually win many games away from home. So I think they've got to start there. Though, Brian, I've got to tell you that there are 2 things that, and I'll speak about them in 2 ways. One, I was very impressed with Massa's goal. The manner in which he took it to, with that calmness and stop and go around the goalkeeper into the empty net. That's Massa that we never saw for recent years. Then the other one was a bit sad when Mitchell came out at the press conference and he thought this was a war between him and Janus when he said, I want to thank all the Janus who gave the Mauritanians our videotapes on how we play, the videos on how we play then. So you wanted us to lose, but we won. And I'm there thinking, first of all, Mitchell is playing a bit of a devil's advocate because it's irrelevant how teams get tapes or videos because they
can always get
get them regardless of who gives them to. For example, let me tell you something very simple. We all pretend to be patriotic. Look at me in this job. If I have a videotape or a video of how Uganda play, and I'm asked to deliver it to a team for money, why would I not do it for 2 million? Because at the end of the day, they get the tape. They get the video, they'll get to know how teams play. So when I look at Mitchell saying that journalists wanted him to lose, I'm thinking, Mitchell, just do your job. The team has been failing recently, and that's why he's under all this pressure. You should just shut up and make sure the team wins. When you win, you write the history. I've already said that the history of war is written by the victors. Because if you get killed in the war, you can't write the history. Now, Mitchell should look at it that way.
Is he also forgetting that they can send an official for every game and they watch it?
It's very simple and it's totally immaterial for Mitchell to come out that way. Should have been celebrating the result, not attacking people for who gave away the video. Is it relevant?
I'll re-echo what you're saying. Do your job and we'll come and watch the games.
Yeah.
We will fill that stadium. You know, I think the other man, the Scottish, did exactly that. He tried to win and we supported him. I think you are loved here, do not spoil it. Definitely, I support you. The under-17, though, also impressed.
Yeah.
And you were saying on the weekend that these guys are actually under-17. Oh, do we always send like 25-year-olds or 30-year-olds?
I think the memories of seeing the under-17 playing this competition will go back a few years ago when Uganda were proven to have fielded Ivan Intege. When he was way over 17. I don't know what age he actually is now in the national team. But at the time, Uganda were banned from competition for about 2 or 3 years because of this same thing. But I think for this team, there's been a lot of belief that within the age bracket because many of them who have watched more than I have seen them play through Rinsa Standard Academy, Arua Public School, some of them, St. Juliana, like left back Alex Komakechu, set up one of the brilliant goals. I think it must have been the 4th, when there was an interplay between the whole team before Komakechu slid the ball into the box and got the goal. So they actually look under 17. I think the bigger problem, I think, for Mattia Ole is where they can keep his team together for a few years. Because one of the problems, I think, Ugandan football, if we had an under-21 competition in 3-4 years from now, we'd have a totally different team. And you're thinking, where's under-17 team that was playing so well? And they put 4 goals past Rwanda. They have a return leg in Kigali to come. But you've got to think that probably 4 goals the team did enough. Though I think at this level, winning is not everything. For some of us have been crying out for Uganda to play in these competitions. Now we are. And two, I've been crying out for teams to play with some kind of identity, go and enjoy the game. Many coaches call the game at this level one about natural joy. And I really saw that natural joy. Because if I fielded you in another 19 game, your worries are totally different. If you're Muchuba, I've paid you some bit of money, you're worried about your wife, you're worried about your rent, that natural joy won't come out. But if I'm 15-year-old and playing at an under-17 level, I'd play the game because I'm just enjoying it. I was told the other week when the Seychelles under-19, under-17 team came here, there was a 14 or 12-year-old who didn't even know what Seychelles needed. He was just enjoying dribbling past opponents. So you want to see that kind of thing at this level. And I saw most of that, I think, in this under-17 team. I'm really optimistic they would get the result in Kigali and advance to the next stage. And that would be quite a bonus for Ugandan football.
Good job, under-17, thrashing Rwanda 4-0. We're definitely, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think if we can tap that talent, we can produce a fantastic Ugandan Cranes team. I'm moving on, Power against UCU. Yeah. The latter, UCU, came close, not too close for comfort. What happened next time?
They didn't eventually, I think, finish the job because they lost the game 65 to 59. A 6-point game in basketball is very narrow. It's a very, very small margin. But I thought they weren't as competitive as they should have been for most of the game, especially knowing that they didn't have Sudi Ulanga and Desmond Owili. Ulanga, of course, having an injury, and then Desmond Owili suspended until 3rd of November. And then also you could say Power didn't have Norman Bleak on their roster. And then Philip Amenyi is also suspended for 8 games. But I think eventually it came down to one player, Abdullahi Ramadan, or Dula, they love to call him. He's been that kind of player, I think, for the past 5 years since he came here with Warriors. And he scored only 17. He scored only 17 on the day, but those 17 were the difference between losing probably by 1 or 2 points and winning by 6. Because he made those at crucial stages. When you see probably go and sink a 3, comes back and responds with 1. When you see a pull the margin within 2, he goes with a daring move to the hoop and lays up. Now, in that kind of mindset, they probably UC would have beaten Power. They would never have beaten Dolo on the night.
Wow.
Yeah.
This was very disappointing. It's probably the worst news I've received in weeks.
Yeah.
How did Kenya do that?
34-0, the final score in the Elgon Cup.
Was it expected?
I've got to say that I didn't expect the Rugby Cranes to win in Nairobi. Major reason, we don't win many. We've only won thrice in Nairobi. 2002, 2006, and 2012. So we don't win that many already. And that's, I think, a symptom of all the other team sports. We don't win so many games away from them, except for, I think, for the netball, for the athletes who are running, and not so many other sports win. But then, on the other hand, for the Rugby Cranes to lose without scoring a point has got to be even more disappointing. 34 is not a scoreline I had anywhere in my mind. Eventually, the Kenyans got the result, I think, on aggregate, 48 to 21, because they had lost the first encounter here, 21 to 14. But try after try, and I was being told by someone who was in Nairobi that every time the Rugby Cranes had the ball, they seemed so eager to commit an error. They committed mistake after mistake after mistake, and they got punished on each occasion by a try and another one and another one. And I think it got, by the time probably it got to about 60 minutes, everyone had given up on the cause. 34-0. I can't, it's very brutal. And I can imagine what Peter Magona feels, the coach, at this point in time. He must be feeling sore, even if he wasn't on the pitch. He must feel like something hit him right through the back. And when you lose games like this, you can lose games. When you lose games this way, 34-0, you can't find anything positive to say about the team after that. I think there are not many positives you can pick. But probably in the few weeks ahead, we'll be able to tell the whole story of what exactly happened. And probably tomorrow, Brian will probably get up on a few things of what happened exactly in Nairobi on Saturday, because I keep saying it, 34-0, then I run out of breath.
Should probably get Tim here to come and try and explain what happened.
Yeah, he's not an easy person, by the way, to get to talk to the media, but I'll probably give it an effort, give it a shot.
We should, because this is very worrying. But your messages on the whole weekend about tennis,
golf.
I mean golf. Did Rory actually join Tiger and Jack Nicklaus in the galaxy of 3 major titles before your 25th birthday?
He did, and his father is richer for it because 10 years ago when Rory McIlroy was 15, his father bet on him to win the Open, which is the Open, the British Open, the Claret Jug, before he turns 25.
Wow.
And before his 26th birthday, that meant that he had to win it when he's 25 at most. And Rory will be 26 before the end of this year. And he eventually did. I know what the odd was. It was 500 to 1, which meant that if you bet 1 million shillings, you'd get 500 million shillings in return. That's what Rory did. Because yesterday he shot a 1 under 71 and eventually finished on, I think, 271, the aggregate score for a final round of, I think the final score is about 17 under to finish 2 shots clear of Ricky Fowler and Sergio Garcia to win his 3rd major. And like you said, Brian, only he, Tiger Woods, who has won 14 majors, and Jack Nicklaus, who has won 18, are the only ones who have won 3 majors when they are 25. It's got to be quite something that Rory McIlroy is. And actually, I remember a few years ago when he first came to the scene and won his first major, I think the comparisons between him and Tiger Woods have never gone away. The Northern Irishman has never been compared to the players within his age group. He's always been compared by, it's about him and the greatest players. And eventually, by delivering at Hoylake in Royal Liverpool, Rory McIlroy is the real deal. He is the real deal.
Well, some of us thought Tiger would bounce back at Liverpool, but he eventually failed. Speaking of Liverpool, we have a keeper. How did we get him?
let me pick up this very quickly.
How much does it cost? That's the most important thing.
Liverpool signed Loic Remy over the weekend from QPR and also won their first pre-season game by 2-1 against Preston North End. So a bit of relief there for Liverpool, even if I don't think so many are excited about Loic Remy per se. He's 27, he's French, and been playing for QPR. He's been playing for Newcastle on loan. Probably doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Anyone will be look at which signing will be Luis Suarez.
After losing Suarez, you can't just bring
Loic Remy. And then Arsenal have signed the Colombian goalkeeper, David Ospina, from Nice for £3.2 million. He had a very, very good World Cup, but I've got to think he's a good signing for Arsenal. They need that kind of debut after losing Lucas Fabianski, who left the club at the end of the season. So Wojciech Szczesny and David Ospina. Good stuff here for Arsene Wenger.
Is anyone buying the Costa Rican goalkeeper? It's like someone, I saw artwork that it's not about the bus. For him, he has a wall.
He's signed for Real Madrid. Keylor Navas. Yeah. He looks sad.
Madrid have to take everything. Okay, at 1:30 p.m., join Ismail Umansi and Alan. They'll break it down. They'll tell you how we... But Madrid, no.
By the way, Brian, Vasily Kabudiyab is back.
I don't care whether he's there. He was a waste. He was a total waste. He should probably join the song, wherever they are. But I'm looking forward to the next season. Really looking forward. At 1:30 p.m., Ismail will be back. And Monday, 10:30 p.m., Sports Bar coming to you live from Club Silk. What's the morning show without your African proverb? Check. Murungi Brenda's contributing